How would you like to make your plant run more steady and to reduce the disturbances on a process? Very often drums are put in place, or other vessels on a plant, to absorb disturbances. In fact, it's one of the few places on a plant where you can absorb some of the process disturbances, because you can let the level go up and down, and then the flow coming out of the vessel can be kept relatively constant, with the level absorbing those disturbances. So you would think that people would tune the levels to allow this to happen, but very often levels are tuned too tightly, and it's probably the most common mistake that control engineers make. So when you go to tune a level, you want to, if possible, maximise the surge capacity. There are a few cases where you have to control a level tightly, and that's usually when you have only a small amount of surge capacity because the vessel or drum is quite small. But hopefully in the majority of cases you've got an opportunity to detune the level and really maximise the use of that surge capacity. So how do you do that in practice? Well, the first thing is don't use any derivative action. In my whole career I've almost never seen a situation where derivative is useful on levels. There are a very, very small number of levels that can benefit from derivative action. But most of the time you don't want to use derivative, so you're at least getting to a point straight away where you only need to use PI action and you don't need the derivative. The next thing to say is that the proportional and integral action needs to also be used carefully. Proportional action is really the strong handle for tuning levels. You don't want to use too much integral action. The integral action, just by its very nature, doesn't mix very well with the integrating process, which is a level. When you're tuning your proportional and integral action, you're normally going to be tuning your integral action to be weak and your proportional action to be set appropriately so that you have the right amount of control but not too strong a control. One of the ways to decide how to set the control will be to look at the alarm limits. If you can and you have the ability to detune the level, you want to be just inside the alarm limits when you have the sort of biggest disturbances that you normally encounter. And that way you're using the surge capacity to the max. And the integral action is just gradually bringing you back towards set point when the disturbance goes away. So if you tune your levels well and maximise the surge capacity, that's very often the biggest improvement you can make on a plant. And you'll help to steady out all the downstream units by keeping the feed to those units steady. For more information about our services, go to newlandcontrol.com.